Greetings, fellow Empyreans. I am Ashterothi, and this is the Agency. We are going to continue our journey understanding EVE Online and teaching EVE Online. Today we are going to go over the Agency. The Agency is a relatively newer piece of UI. It's gone through several iterations, but it has become increasingly kind of the information center for the game. However, a lot of experienced pilots don't really know very much about the Agency, which means a lot of newer players don't get taught a lot about the Agency. There's a big gap there. So we're going to go through the Agency each page at a time and look at what it does, the strengths and weaknesses, and how we can use the Agency to find the content that we want in the game. So first and foremost, the Agency kind of has this content area in the bottom, in the main part, and then a bunch of tabs at the top. If you notice, the sections here correspond to the sections up here, and that's generally true. Also, if there's an event, those events can go right here where the corporation dashboard is. They can fit in extra icons. So if there's like a big one of the normal events, like the Hunt or Guardian Gala, the panel will go right there. Otherwise, and then I think it usually goes under encounters in the subsections. In addition to that, at the very bottom, there is a plus button that allows you to make bookmarks. So that way you can skip to any other part of the Agency that you want to. So you can keep like individual pages that you frequently reference, able to be clicked on right away. So let's go ahead and jump into the first one, which is Agents and Missions. So each area has the main card with some information about it. There's a question mark at the bottom that tells you more information about the actual task itself. And a lot of people don't notice this, but there's a little diamond at the bottom or in the middle of a lot of these sites, or a lot of these cards. If you click on the diamond, it actually opens up that section of the activity tracker, right? So each of these numbers are associated with an activity tracker position. And if you click on it, it opens up the activity tracker, which is kind of cool. Mission agents are obviously the standard PvE, the most predictable PvE. It's been around for a long time. There are security agents, which are combat, distribution, which is moving transportation, mining agents, which is mining. R&D agents are a special kind of agent, which they not only can do missions, but they actually allow you to do research. So depending on, there's certain requirements for them, but basically once you meet those requirements, they will generate passive data cores for you that you can collect and use for either for selling or for the market, make some money. And then storyline agents, this one shows unavailable right now because storyline agents, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. It's either 13 or 16. Every so many missions, standard missions that you do, you are given a storyline mission. Storyline agents are very useful for a couple of reasons. One, they give some pretty cool rewards like implants and stuff like that. But more importantly, number two, they get, is it 15? 15 or 16? So 16. I think it's 16. 16 sounds right. They give you faction standings, which is like such a big deal. Faction standings are the single hardest thing to build up in the game. And the nice advantage of that is that if you have a faction your highest standings is what overrides, or is is the standings that gets counted towards like a specific agent. So if you have 5.0 standings with an entire faction, then that would allow you to use any agent from those factions. So storyline agents, being able to build up your faction standings, very, very useful. It is worth noting that getting those big faction standing boosts can give you negative faction standings with the rest of the enemy empires. So you may want to keep an eye on that to make sure you don't slip with anything else. But this is one of the best sources of faction standings outside of things like faction warfare. So we're not going to go too far down this rabbit hole, but when it comes to agents, each of those pages are kind of lead to the same funnel, which is this page right here. And it allows you to filter by level of agent, by how far away you're willing to go, whether or not you're accepting things in high sec, or where you're looking for agents, and which factions you want to go for. Now, if you choose a specific faction, like if I go to Galente, then it'll actually pull up corp. So you can pick a specific corp, but only after you've chosen faction. You can also, and then if you check this, then it'll show agents that you can't use yet because you don't have enough standings. It's worth noting that I only get 30 results, and it doesn't matter which I go. 30 results is the maximum. So depending on which you need, or what kind of agents that you're looking for, you may need to narrow down your results. Otherwise, if it doesn't show up in the first 30 results, you're not going to see it. So it might be worth, narrowing down your results. This does tell you a little bit more about how standings works, which is fine. The important thing, though, is if you go into your character sheet under standings, if you look up the faction that you're interested in, at the very top, it gives you what the standings give you, right? So at 0, I can join faction warfare. At 1.0, I can run level 2 agents. At 3.0, I can do level 3 agents, and I can run the epic arc. And at 5.0, I can do level 4 agents and the 5.0 epic arc. And then I would have to have 7.0 to be able to do level 5 agents. Now, this is a faction standings. If I do it with a corporation, see, so if I was to do it with the Federation Navy, I'd be able to run level 5 missions. But if it was a different faction, like Federation Navy is the only corporation that I have high enough standings to be able to run level 5 missions for. But because of my Galente faction standing, I can run any level 4 missions in Galente that is by the Galente, which is pretty cool. Epic arcs are like they're constructed stories, right? So they're multiple missions strung together. Normal missions are basically you are given random missions from the cluster of available missions, whereas the epic arc are full-on stories. There are kind of three different kinds of epic arcs. You have the Bloodstained Stars, which is the newbie one. Everybody should be able to do the Bloodstained Stars. It is recommended for people to do straight out of the career agents, for right after the tutorial, and it mostly functions on as a kind of tour of the cluster. Lets you go around and meet all the different factions and all kinds of stuff like that. And then also at the end, you get a big bonus standings with the Sisters of Eve and with your chosen faction. So this is one of those things I just said, that faction standings is notoriously difficult to get. Sisters of Eve, Epic Arc, Bloodstained Stars, which can be repeated every 4 months, I want to say. This is one of those ways. If you manage to break or get your standings low, you can run the Bloodstained Stars and get standings with the faction of your choosing. However, you do need to go within all of the faction spaces in order to do this. So I remember I tried to do it while I was in the militia, and I ended up having a big problem because I couldn't run around freely in the Amara area. Gaining faction rep only possible via storyline missions. No, you can, there are data centers. There's actually, if you look up online, there's a thing called The Plan, EVE Online The Plan, which is the faction standing repair plan. So you can do all of the career agents. If you do the career agents, the tutorial agents for a faction, you get a bonus for that faction. So you can do all 3 of the career agents for that faction once. You can do the data centers, which are where you turn in dog tags for faction standings. You can do those once. And then the Bloodstained Stars you can do every 4 months. I think. Beyond that, you've got the storyline agents and faction warfare, which are basically the only other consistent method of getting faction standings. It's also worth noting that, like, as you finish missions, you can share the rewards. So, like, I could run missions and have somebody else in my fleet. They could be in nullsec. They could be anywhere. But when I turn in the mission, they get the rewards, or I can split the rewards with them, including the standings. This does not work for storyline missions. This does not work for faction standings. It only works for corporation and agent standings. Oh, 07? Agent Finder is, so this is just kind of the same thing. If you notice, like, mission agents lets you pick what kind of agent, and so I'm picking mining agent, and so this is only looking up mining agents. But if I go to Agent Finder, then it'll let me look up any kind of agent. So, whatever. And I can just hit a bookmark here, so that way I can just, from here, click on the bookmark, and poof, I'm on the Agent Finder. There is little tokens at the top right of each of the agents with special notes. The shield is security. I don't actually know what that mission or what that one is. The important one though is the science, what is it, a beaker, I guess, which means that they are a research agent. And then there is a like circle, like a bullseye. Let's see, do I have locator agent. So, is that, this circle, this bullseye at the bottom left, this means it's a locator agent. Locator agents can be used to find another player, and the better your standings, the better locator agents you can use, the better you can hunt down people. Next, under encounters, we have incursions. Incursions are basically raid content. I like to say, like, imagine if World of Warcraft came out with Molten Core and then just never came out with another raid again, but instead just made it so that Molten Core gives you the resource that you need for everything, and therefore everyone just continues to run Molten Core, even though it's, over a decade old and it's been min-maxed to absolute death. But, it's fun for a lot of people, and I actually really like it. It's not bad content, but it's not like, it's certainly not new, and it's not like being figured out. It's more or less solved content. But at any given time, there are, I guess, 3 different incursions. There are currently no high-sec incursions. Is that true? That's pretty spooky. Browsing. It is worth a lot of ISK, and they are fun. But my point is that it's less about, like, it's less about improvisation and more about, like, learning the process and execution, right? It's about being with a team of people, 10 to 15 people, and executing things as efficiently and effectively and quickly as possible, and just going. Which can be, I mean, like, that's what's a lot of ISK. Over 100 million an hour for each person. I don't know the exact numbers, and it really depends on, like, what kind of efficient setup that they have. Those other kinds of questions, like tips for a new player returning after 8 years or so. I've got lots of tips, but we're going to do one topic at a time for right now. All right. So if you want to know more about incursions, I recommend looking into, like, the Warp to Me community, or I think the Titanian fleet. There are organized incursion groups that have setups that you can look into. This just lets you help you find the actual incursions themselves. So the faction warfare one, this is actually a funny one because a lot of people, even in faction warfare, don't realize that this thing exists. So this is a basic explanation of faction warfare, showing you the, like the rules of the plexes and stuff, which we could go into all of the rules of faction warfare some other time. But what I really want to suggest to you guys is this button, this faction warfare systems section. This is awesome. So in the old world, actually, let me take a step back. Before the agency existed, we had this faction warfare screen, which this map lets you see kind of the war zone, but it's sort of completely useless. And there's this graph, which can be useful to find stuff, but ultimately isn't that useful. Like I can find like a good place to go plex or whatever, but it only gives me so much of an idea of what exactly is going on. So this is the faction warfare systems section of the agency. This is way stronger. So as you can see, I can see which plexes are available in each system. And I think it's delayed by like a minute or two, but it's not by much. We were able to use this to coordinate and whatnot very, very effectively. So you can see any system in the war zones plexes. So like I can look at Renorel right now and see that there's only these 2 plexes. That means the chances that there are people in Renorel right now running plexes is extremely high, because otherwise there would be more plexes open. You see what I'm saying? So you can get a lot of information about what's going on in faction warfare and the systems directly out of this UI. It also helps you look for, I know like when we were a team, we would look around to see if there were any novices nearby and kick people out to go do extra plexes in adjacent systems. Just an incredibly useful information center for anybody who's doing faction warfare. Pirate strongholds or FOBs are special sites that require group combat to defeat, usually. If you've ever seen diamond rats in your belts, or especially pirate diamond rats, Garistus or Blood Raiders, running around in your systems, it means that there is a pirate stronghold somewhere within that constellation that needs to be hunted down and destroyed. The cool thing about pirate strongholds are, upon destruction, they pay out just under 50 million ISK to everyone in the fleet, no matter, just raw ISK. So not only does that mean that it's good to bring more people, but you don't necessarily have to manage too much because it's just a big payout to everybody. Abyssal Dead Space. This is, obviously its own big monster. But what I like from here is that the filament and weather section helps you remember what kind of things, so here is all of the different weather environments and what they do. And you can actually use this to find the key that you want, right? Like if I want to get a T2 and I want to do firestorms, and then I can hit market search and it'll open it up specifically for T2 market firestorms. So if you're managing your Abyss stuff, this is not a bad way to, to quickly grab what you want. But I think that a lot of Abyssal people will probably move on past this, past a certain point, but it's got some good information about the Abyss. I recommend my cheat sheet. It is also worth noting that there's a little symbol here that a lot of people miss. This little icon down here means that this is group content. So faction warfare, incursions, pirate strongholds. It's suggesting to not do it with not attempt to do these things solo. However, Abyss and all of this stuff is perfectly soloable. Okay. Next, we have the exploration section. Combat anomalies. Combat anomalies are the places that you can go that are not scanned. So this is like if you open up your probe window, these are the things that are already there. So havens, dens, hubs, forlorn, whatever. That's what this is here. Now, this window, I don't believe is overly delayed. However, it doesn't tell you how many anomalies, or it'll tell you how many anomalies are on any given system, but it'll only tell you what anomalies exist either in the system that you're currently in or in the adjacent system. And this is another reason why the agency is extremely strong, and why people that use the agency have an advantage over those who do not. Because under normal conditions, you can only see the anomalies within the same system as yours. This allows you to see anomalies next door. This is useful if you're roaming around and you're looking for specific anomaly setups. But more importantly, if you are doing like an event, often events will show up in the agency. So you can actually check to see if there's an event site adjacent in one of the systems adjacent to you, which greatly increase the chances that you will find these sites as you roam around, because chances are the sites in the main thoroughfares are going to be well consumed, ran, but the ones off the beaten path are going to be less run. So if you pay attention to this, you can see like these systems that are one jump away, I can see what anomaly is it that is there. But if I go 2 jumps away, it just simply says unknown combat anomaly. Okay. You can also look to see, even if it's far away, you can look to see like which if a system has a lot of anomalies, well, maybe that's a dead end or whatever. See like this one, 5 anomalies. I might even go and check out to see what those anomalies are, for example. Cosmic signatures, on the other hand, these are the ones that need to be scanned down, right? So these will never tell you what they are. It'll only tell you how many signatures are within the system. And this panel is delayed. In fact, I would argue that this panel is basically useless. The Cosmic Signatures panel is not designed to give you an accurate idea of where the combat signatures are necessarily. They are designed to give you a direction to go in. Okay? This is very, very important, because a lot of people will see like, oh, there's a bunch of signatures this way. Like, oh, there's 5 signatures here, and they'll head there and then there's no signatures there. And they're like, what's going on? Well, this is delayed by like somewhere between like 5 and 30 minutes. So, like when I jump in, when I do a yeet exploration, I'll open up this and look to see if there's a cluster of signatures. But like, that's only giving you a direction. It's not going to give you as much of a precise information as, say, the anomalies will. So that's worth noting. Escalations are a special type of thing that shows up when you're running normal anomalies and cosmic signatures. Upon the completion of certain anomalies and signatures, it has the chance of proccing an escalation, which will be another site that you can go to. Some chains have multiple escalations that go on through, and usually the prizes get better and better and better as you go down. Now, they're still chance-based. You could go all the way down an escalation chain and get nothing. But like, in general, the further you down the escalation chain you go, the more likely that you're going to get cool stuff. Escalations usually last like a day or two and require you to go a few jumps. This allows you to help, or this is where you can find them if you get one. Project Discovery is, of course, citizen science. This is its own ball of wax, but this just is an entry level position for it. This is the analysis. This was given to us for the COVID-19 research, and this is the 3rd iteration of Project Discovery. The first was protein samples. The second was exoplanets, and then this is the 3rd. And the reward for this is biosecurity skins, ISK, and Concord ships, depending on how deep down the chain you get. It's one of the 2 sources of marshals in the game. ESS. This is a feature that is in null security space. When null sec guys do their ratting, a portion of their income gets put into a main bank, which gets paid out every 3 hours. This window allows you to see the state of the main bank and the reserve bank in any given system. The reserve bank is added to whenever anybody makes money, but is not taken out of their actual, like, the money that they're getting paid out. It's just like an extra cut. Reserve banks cannot be received by the people who earn them necessarily. Reserve banks are opened by collecting reserve bank keys in SCC sites in LowSec. So you go to LowSec, you get you run the SCC site, you get the bank key, you go to the correct quadrant of the cluster and use the bank key there in the reserve bank, and you get, you know, a chunk, not all, but a chunk of the ISK out of the reserve bank. But it also notifies everybody within the region. So chances are somebody's coming to kill you. The main bank, however, this is banked over time. So like this one right here has 74 million in it banked up. And it looks like they are paying out relatively soon. So within the next hour, this main bank is going to pay out. Okay. But if I showed up now and I went there, I could steal this 75 million, and they would have to either come fight me or lose it. Right. So, this is another one where if you're using yeet exploration, if you're going out to nullsec, you're looking for a fight or whatever, using this is a good way of seeing, where would be a good place to hit. It's also a good way to know additional information, like meta information, right? So if a reserve bank has a big ISK amount in it, right? Like 74 million is pretty good. That means that this system of MY Tech T2P, this system has activity in it, quite a bit of activity, but it's at 108% bounty multiplier, which isn't as low as it could be. So it seems like it's being ratted. It's been ratted within the last 3 hours, but it's not being overly farmed. Whereas if you come over here, you see this one right here, 37 million in YXI BTAC I. It's at 65% bounty multiplier. I can tell you without even going there that means this is probably a pretty significant ratting system, or at least it was at one point, because that's what it takes to get that ratting multiplier that far down. Meanwhile, if you look at like FMBR TAC 8, it's got 0 ISK in the main bank, only 11 billion in the reserve bank, when a lot of these have like 30 or more. And it's got a bounty multiplier of, there's this one that's 133 and this one that's 163. So these two probably don't have very much ratting going on. This one is interesting because it has 7.2 in the reserve bank, in the main bank. So it is being ratted right now, but it's also got a really high multiplier. So whoever's doing this ratting is probably pretty happy until you go and kill them. So yeah, there's just some ways to interpret this a little bit. And there is, you can obviously use some filters in which you say, okay, well, I only want things that are below a certain amount or above a certain amount. I want to say only 100% or more. And check this to filter it. And now I can see only systems with 100 or more. It's also worth noting that it says 32 results. So once again, make sure your filtering is good, right? Like if you don't see a result, it's probably because your filtering isn't being specific enough, right? And you can use these different parameters. You can also use the location window. So if you jump in and you need to see what's close to you, you just say, okay, within 10 jumps, whatever. MTACO has a big main bank and a big bounty multiplier, mostly because MTACO is extremely dangerous, and MTACO and player killing increases the bounty risk multiplier. If you do select, just like with the other windows, if you select a specific region, then it lets you pick the specific region. And then you can pick an individual constellation and then an individual system if you wanted to. I think. Hold on. Never mind. It doesn't give you individual systems. That's it for exploration. Next is resource harvesting. Asteroid belts are, obviously the main locations for ore that spawn. Asteroid belts are set fixed locations. They're always there, and they just get reseeded with ore every day based on when ore gets mined. It gets sent back up to the redistributor, and I think it's based on constellation. Every night, based on how much was mined, it gets redistributed down to the belts by the redistributor. So this allows you to find maybe specific kinds of ore if you wanted to. In fact, you can even say, I want to find kernite, right? I want to find kernite. This is actually an interesting one because I don't know if you guys know this, but they send new bros to find kernite now. To complete the career agents, you need a mine in lowsec. I don't know if that was intended or not, but it's true. So yeah, you can see that these systems have belts with kernite in it. Doesn't necessarily mean that they have kernite within that belt right this second, but it lets you look up, what systems have what belts, and obviously what pirates may show up when you're mining. Pirates can show up anywhere that you are mining. The contrary to that is anomalies. Anomalies are just like the normal anomalies that we looked at earlier. These are non-scanned signatures. Mining in Tama, just like this. All of the wise people do. You might even be able to get away with mining in Tama, because who would expect that? Who's hunting the Tama belts for the miner? I kind of want to see if I can get away with it. Anywho, ore anomalies, I think, is the increasingly going to be kind of the way that CCP seeds ore. But in the same way as normal anomalies, you can only see them, the specifics of them, if they're within one jump of you. But yeah, these are not static. When they get mined out or whatever, they can move. It is worth noting that just because they're in low sec, I've seen many of these ore anomalies that are just totally wiped out. Didn't that mission get messed up when they moved the ores around? I mean, if by messed up you mean that now new bros have to go into low sec, sure. Expedition Frig 5, excellent. Next is ice belts. Ice are very similar to ore. Ice is used for fuel blocks, for structures, for capitals, for pretty much anything that uses fuel uses some sort of ice product. Each race has their own ice that they utilize. I think you can, you get to see what kind of ice is in each belt. There are, I think, 2 different types of ice per race. One has more of the racial isotope. One has more of the other stuff in it. But yeah, so this allows you to look up ice if you want to go mine ice, which is its own thing. The nice thing about ice is that while ore, the rocks get consumed really, really quick, ice chunks are huge. So you can just sit there and chew on them for ever. Yes, when the ice belts are not broken by CCP. Which, from my understanding, they have been fixed. 3 times. Next is PI. This is another one of those cool ones. Obviously, you can use the Planetary Industry window if you want to, which you can access from your Neocom 2. But, in fact, let me pull it up. No? There we go. So, this is my normal Planetary Industry window, and these are my setup places, and that's fine. But this allows me to find a new place, right? So first of all, I can't do any of these because it's too high of a system. Wait. Why does it? Planet cannot be colonized. Why would this one be able to be colonized? I thought you couldn't do PI in 1.0 systems. Whatever. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong with that one. You've not minimized your PI window? Yes, not all systems spawn ice belts. I haven't touched my PI in too long. That's true. So when you're doing PI, you often need to look for like specific planets or whatever. So that's one of the things that this is useful for. So you know you can be looking for specific planet types in specific space or whatever, and you can see what kind of levels of resources that there are at different planets. This will help you, you know, rather than having to poke at each individual planet. Oh. Ah, there you go. I didn't even know about that. You know, as you set up your thing, you're going to be like, oh, well, I need a lava planet and 2 barren planets or something like that. So this allows you to help pick out your stuff, or I'm looking for these specific resources. Yeah. That's it for resources. Fleet up. So this one's weird. This is the new fleet, the fleet selector window, which I think is pretty cool. You can also open up the fleet window here and then go to advert or find fleets. And you should see that these two correspond with each other pretty well. Yeah. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep. There you go. Perfect. So one thing I will say is that I did note that I think when I made a fleet advert through this window, one of the window or the other, it didn't actually create the advert. So just double check when you make an advert, just double check to make sure you made it right. The one cool thing that I really liked about the introduction of this window was the introduction of the idea of new player friendly, right? So you can set your fleet to be new player friendly, and you can also set a fleet to be public, right? Like some of these things, several of these things are totally public channels. Now, granted, you may not necessarily want to trust a public fleet, but let's say you want to start, gaining some people to do a thing. This would be a good opportunity to see if you can start building some people up, like to do an event or some sort of specific site or whatever. I feel like I missed one. I did. Wait, I did. I skipped over Triglavian space under exploration. The exploration Triglavian space one is about Pochvin, which are the 27 systems taken by the Triglavians as part of the invasions. The Triglavian Collective has linked the systems of Pochvin region together using their conduit gate technology, resulting in a large conduit loop. Some conduit gates require a certain level of standings with the Triglavian Collective in order to pass through them. And then there's wormholes that lead to Triglavian space, permitting travel back and forth. So the only ways to get into and out of Pochvin are through the wormholes and through the filaments. So this tells you about it. This shows you what your standings are with the Triglavian Collective and what standings you require to do things. I'm so close to 4.0. I should really push for that. And then here it shows the different types of filaments that you can use, right? So cry filaments are there's for each clade, their territory. The system class is border internal home, because each empire or each of the clades has one border, one home, and 7. Hold on. Is it one border, one home? I need to look it up. Either way, they have more internal filament, internal systems. And then Divana filaments will bring you to a Triglavian minor victory, which can be in high sec or low sec. And extraction filaments are based on the proximity of where that system is in New Eden. For more information about these sorts of things, I strongly recommend going to either kybernaut.space or the EdenCom website, which I'll provide links to get like an information of all the different systems that can be connected to via extraction filaments and how these things work well. It is worth noting that not all wormholes get Triglavian conduits connected to them. I believe it's only the higher class wormholes that get connected to Pochvin. And then finally, the help section. The help section is actually a series of videos. Pretty much all of the videos as part of the agency are continuing to be put onto here. So we can click on a video to check it out. They have audio. Some of them are like longer, and then some of them are, you know, a little bit shorter and simpler. The nice thing about these things is that you can take one of these videos and you can drag and drop it into a chat. And then if somebody clicks on it, it opens up to that video. See? So yeah, the help section that the MP, well, the MPE actually does point you towards a few things, but not very, like, they could have done a better job of it. But either way, that, and then, like I said, if you go to encounters during events, there'll be, like, right where this incursion is, there'll be the event information, and there'll be the event track and all the stuff involved in the whatever the current event is. So that's it. That's the agency. It's a pretty simple tool, but it's a really good way to find and understand your content. People who know how to use the agency know how to utilize the world just a little bit better than those who don't, especially in things like faction warfare and like events and such. So I hope that was all useful to you. If you learned something, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All that stuff, which really, really helps. I appreciate all of your guys' support. I do hope that you guys liked it. And until next time, I'll see you in space.